What's the starting point? The starting point is, what does the business want us to do with scorecards? Why do we build scorecards? So a business, scorecards, when I started out, there were probably around 5 scorecards in the UK when I started working in this area. There are now probably thousands of scorecards being used across the industry, and thousands of people like you working in this area. So someone has convinced senior management of a whole pile of financial institutions to invest a lot of money in hiring people, in training them, and giving them the technology to work in this area. So why? What's the business case for what we're doing? And I would say the most important thing and the biggest challenge we have in running a business is it's just all too complex. So in a lending operation where you don't have scoring, you've got to juggle all these balls. Okay? I'm not going to go through all of them, but let's take a couple of them. We're obviously interested in the credit bureau. Has this person had bad credit in the past? Or maybe they've had positive stuff, positive credit history. Okay? How much weight should we give that? And how does that combine with anything we know about the person's character? And how the hell do we judge character? We're interested in the current account. How you use your current account gives the most insight into your credit behavior, and there's a lot of movement in that area with open banking and the PSD2 directive. You might be interested in affordability. How do we measure affordability? That in itself is extremely complicated and extremely difficult to figure out whether we're doing a good job, which is a lot of what we worry about. Okay? So we could keep going on and on and on about all of this kind of stuff. So what's scoring's answer to this? If you look around the statistical literature, okay, you look for something which is going to enable me to reduce dimensionality. So that's the key mathematical object of what we're trying to do. The key goal is reduce the number of dimensions we've got to make decisions in so the process becomes more manageable. Okay? And there's one key idea, okay, which does that, reduction in dimensionality, and this is sufficient statistic. Okay? Let me give you the original definition, which dates back to 1923. 1922. Okay, I got it wrong by a year. Okay? From a guy called Ronald Fisher, who was one of the pioneers in scoring. It's pioneer of statistics, not of scoring. And here's what he said. No other statistic. Now, what we'll discover during this course is that statisticians never say anything positive. They'll only say negative and sometimes double or even triple negative things. So he's already not saying what it is. He's saying there's no other statistic, nothing else, which we can compute from the same sample. In other words, the same cases, but for us, most importantly, with the same items of data about each case. Okay? So given a certain database, we can't get any extra information as to the value of the parameter. The parameter we think about here is PD, for instance, to keep our ideas straightforward. Okay? And what that means is that if we have something which is a sufficient statistic, then if we have 2 groups of people who have a PD of 5%, okay, it shouldn't matter whatever else we know about them. We shouldn't be able to split the 5% into 5 A's who are better risks and 5 B's who are worse risks. There should be nothing in the database that enables us to say these people perform better or these people perform worse. Once you know the score, once you know the PD, that's it. We're done. This PD is then a sufficient statistic for risk. Okay, so that's a fairly simple idea, and it's not a particularly technical idea, but it's got huge implications. Because that enables us then, it determines the way in which we build scorecards. It also determines the way in which we can evaluate the scorecard. So if you're validating a model, the key test is there any group that we can identify in the population which performs better or worse than the scorecard says it should? Here's the fundamental idea. Once we know the score, then we can go back to the previous slide and throw away all that stuff. Why? Because it's in the score. Okay? We have one number which summarizes and gets the trade-offs in everything we look at. Now, we're still not going to get away with one dimension. Why? Because that's the score for sort of PD, for instance. Okay? But if we now want to take into account LGD, that's going to be another number. And actually, more importantly, we can combine PD and LGD into expected loss. But if we want to think about the marketing potential of the customer, how much revenue will they produce? Or will they stay for the next 20 years? Or are they a customer who will jump from us back to another credit grantor? then those are dimensions you can't reduce down to one dimension. So we're still stuck with a problem of dimensionality. Okay? My view is that you can't get down, in terms of the strategic organization of the business in general, to less than around 4 dimensions. Okay? And 4 dimensions is tough, but it's a hell of a lot better than 36 dimensions.